What's up, guys? This is Metzli. Today we're doing a video that goes pretty in depth about affixing and all the different aspects that fall into that. So affixing is basically the process in this game to increase the power of your equipment. So like if you go to the third tab on any item, all these different bonuses that you see giving different stats or boosts, those are all affixes. For the most part, pretty much every affix in the game is transferable. Some of them are much harder than others to actually get onto a different piece of gear. Like if you've messed around with this a little bit on your own, probably like I was when I first started this game. So souls, it's not readily obvious how you move souls around, but it can be done. It's not hard once you know what you're doing. So we're just gonna start out with some basics, I guess. So we kind of already talked about what affixes are. A lot of them have different levels, so like you see poison 3. For these status ones there's 1 through 5, but generally unless you've got some kind of specific build that really benefits heavily from inflicting statuses, it's not really worth running these things. You're going to want just, your power upgrades. So, slots. So this number that you see here with this rainbow icon and a number, that's how many slots that gear currently has. So as far as slots goes, 5 is about where you want to stop if you're trying to be at all economic. Once you start trying to add more than 5 slots to a piece of loot, it starts to get a lot more expensive and a lot more difficult. Did I unlock my weapon earlier? Okay, yeah, I unlocked it for some reason. So like the gear I'm actually using, so like this is my final product on my weapon. You may have seen like some more ridiculous stuff if you look to your personal shop on your ship, but I did this pretty cheap. Like this whole setup was well under 10 million. That said, it did cost quite a few X cubes just to upslot all the different pieces. So over the course of the video, I'm pretty much going to run you through like how you do pretty much everything that I put onto this weapon, like how I got it, all that kind of stuff. We'll also go over like what I did with my units. I'm not going to show that because I'm kind of low on resources. I don't have the X cubes to do another unit, but I'll at least, it's the same process. It's just a little harder for units just because you don't get as many, it's harder to transfer stuff. It is what it is. So just to show you what affixing can do for you. So like standing here unbuffed, I've got over 3000 power, just under 200 PP, like pretty good HP pull. So like affixing really pays off. It's kind of like your end game. You don't want to really worry about it too much until you've got some pretty solid, Nemesis gear, 12-star units, that kind of thing. Like it's pretty expensive, so you don't really want to be investing on like 10-star gear, 11-star gear, Nox weapons, that kind of thing. Or you can put some pretty cheap stuff on. So, there's going to be 2 pretty handy tools the whole time you're working on this. So right here we've got the Affix Simulator from ArcSlayer. Yeah, so you got that. And then also there's the Visiphone. So in the Visiphone, you can pretty much find any information about this game that you want. So I've got the Affix Augments page brought up just so that we can kind of cover some basic stuff. So extra slot section, that's for your upslotting, increasing the number of slots on a piece of gear. So like we were talking earlier, like this has 3, this has 5, etc. They've got a handy table in here to kind of give you what your percent success is. So the reason I was saying earlier 5 is kind of your last safe spot. 5, your success chance is 60% if you upslot with everything having 100% success chance. And we'll look at exactly what that means shortly. So you can get augment success boosters from the EX shop. I'll show you those real quick. So right now it's pretty easy to obtain all the way up to 40%. and it goes up in like increments of 5. But these are basically your bread and butter. You can get these from a couple different places, but your EX shop is kind of your most straightforward place to pick them up. So like you can get 30s and 40s. So looking back at this table, if you use 2 fodder equipment with your base, you have a 60% chance to upslot to 5. If you buy a 40%, then you guarantee that 100% upgrade. So I'll kind of show you what we mean with that on this. So let's say our base weapon has 4 100% abilities, or 4 abilities already, and we're trying to upgrade it with 5 100% abilities. So as you pick these, you can see right now if we're putting the same number, still 100% success chance. As soon as we try to add a 5th one, that's going to lower our success chance. So what you would want to do in game then is use this 40%, that way it's 100%. Because like this looks like a high success chance, right? Like you've got 90%. But what you got to think about RNG wise, you've got 90% 5 times, which means that you have a 10% chance to fail 5 times. So this button will kind of pretend we did it. So like we failed that time, we failed again. So you could fail several times before you succeed. So until you're going for like that really expensive, amazing affix set on a really good item, you just want to always have 100%. That said, when upslotting, if you have a lot of fodder pieces, you're not that worried about your meseta, it might be more economic for you to not worry too much about the expensive aid and just take that chance on the 90%. Because at that point you're not really worried about any of the affixes you're upslotting. An exception to this would be, I'll show you. So like for my units, I upslotted Arc's Fever onto them because I needed to, because the way my fodder pieces were set up, I didn't have enough space to also put Arc's Fever on. So I had to upslot Arc's Fever in the upslotting process. So I didn't want to take this chance, so I used a 40% success chance to guarantee Arc's Fever got onto my piece. So the next thing with affixing that can be kind of weird. So let's just use Doombreak because it's a pretty common example. So you can see if I put Doombreak, it doesn't show up just with 1 copy. If you add a 2nd copy, you get a 50% chance. If you add a 3rd copy, you get an 80% chance. Now, for some of these that transfer like this that require multiple copies, once you get that 3rd one, you can take a really risky chance to get a more powerful version, but just be prepared for that to fail. If you add a 4th, it doesn't really... I don't even have a piece set up really, so it's kind of breaking the simulator. But I'll just copy all these affixes in just so you can see, but a 4th one doesn't change anything. So really only up to 3 copies is really doing a whole lot. It increases your success chance at the upgraded version, but that's about it. So like technically, if you put 5 copies of Doombreak 1, you've got a 50% success chance. So between that and a 40% success booster, which it's not letting me pick. I don't know why it's doing that, but oh, because I haven't put anything yet. So anyway, let's just say, for the sake of what we're doing right now, just to show this. So we got Doombreak 2, 400% slot things. So technically, if you farmed out 5 Doombreak 1s, and that's the only affix you really cared about, you could put Doombreak 2 on there with, you know, a 10% failure rate. So like running 10 sims, all succeeded, pretty lucky. But that said, you're not really going to want to do this because then that means that you can't put any other powerful affixes on these fodder pieces. You'd have to transfer Doombreak 2, and then you would need another 2 Doombreak 2 pieces to be able to actually keep that affix whenever you add your other affixes. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So let's put Doombreak 2 on our base, and remove all this stuff on the fodder. And of course, we're going to have to add more stuff because now our base is a 6 slot and our fodder a 5 slot. So we can't actually use those as fodder anymore. Your fodder always have to have the same or more slots as the base you're trying to upgrade. So we just need to add F right quick to all of our fodder so that we can use them as fodder. Okay, so now you see all this shows up. So we put Doombreak on our base, but we can't transfer it because we only have one copy. So like if you wanted to do this where you use 5 Doombreak 1s to put Doombreak 2 on your base, you would need to farm up another fodder piece or 2 with Doombreak 2 on it. Like if you want that 100% success chance, you would need a total of essentially 15 Doombreak 1s to get a Doombreak 2 on your final product. So one good thing with the way Doombreak drops, it almost always comes with either Eastern Soul or Vegas Soul. So since I segued into that, we'll talk about soul synthesis here. So right now out of what's available, you have a couple options for soul syntheses. That's kind of what most of these light gray souls are, is synthesis of other souls. So the D-Soul line that you see right here, those are kind of like your fairly easy to obtain, pretty powerful synthesis. So what those are going to require is any green soul, so any of the Earth souls, essentially Chapter 4 boss souls, and any blue soul, so a field boss soul from Chapter 1 through 3 explorations. So what you're going to get a lot of the time is you might get a Jigmole, you'll see a Schrader a lot if you're farming Doombreaks. But a lot of the time you're going to get Schrader on some other piece, which that's weird. It's transferring because I got it on 2 pieces. That's what happened. So you can see with souls, it's kind of like Doombreak, where you need multiple copies to actually transfer it. Throat keeps getting dry. Alright, so we have Schrader on here, which is a field boss soul. Now we got, let's just say our fodder piece, we got some amazing 7 slot Doombreak 2, came with full Vegas. You can see that now all of these D-Souls are activated. That's because we have the Earth Soul and the field boss soul, and they've got a 70% base success chance, which means you only need a 30% to succeed. Now that said, whenever you go to Affix, it's going to show all of these, but you can only select one. So you see how they're mutually exclusive? In most cases, you're best off just taking Allies to Soul. If you don't care at all about HP, then take that extra 10 power. But for most people, the extra HP is probably worth it. Yeah. So we did all our farming, we got some really good Doombreak and Allies to Soul stuff. So if this is a weapon that you're working on, your options from here are a lot easier. If you're not working on a weapon, your options from this point are significantly more challenging. So we're going to cover weapons first, just because it's a lot easier to build a good weapon. So to really get into weapons, we need to talk about Augment Factors, because that's what you're really going to use to keep the cost down for your weapon augments. So to talk about Augment Factors, we need to talk about overgrinding. So I actually have some stuff prepared to talk about overgrinding. So overgrinding is these plus 35 weapons. If you've messed around with enhancing weapons a little bit, you're probably already well aware that weapons normally cap out at plus 30. So like if you see here on the enhancement level, 30 max. This orange one, 35 max. So I'm actually going to show you how to increase that cap. That's why I've got all these Sigma Zerators here, ready to go. So if we make our way over to Doo-Doo, we're gonna go ahead and enhance the 5-slot one just so that I don't have to try to upslot this thing to show anything else off. And then the way that you increase the cap is feeding that base weapon copies of itself, so weapons with the same name. Each one you feed is going to increase the cap by 1. I'm not too worried about the enhancement experience because we're not actually going to raise the level. If you wanted to be efficient, you know, obviously we're already over the enhancing cap, but I'm not worried about that for the purpose of what we're doing right now. So we fed it 5 of itself. So you can see the cap is now 35. I'm not actually going to feed this, but that's what you would get. You'd now be able to grind it up to 35. So once you've done that 35 to get access to your Augment Factor, you want to actually grind it up to 35. I'm going to do that with this weapon because I'm actually going to use this weapon in a future build. And you'll see why once we get it to plus 35. So right now the easiest way that you can get a weapon to plus 35, and it's not efficient at all in terms of the work you're putting in, but it's efficient in terms of grinders and Metzli, is to use these collection file weapons that come 13 star plus 30. Because they just give so much more experience than any other option. You get 5,000 each. I'll probably just actually pull some other crap out of my bank to feed it, just to save some of those. Because 1 through 10 is pretty easy. So I'm just going to pull out some random high rarity plus 5 stuff and just feed that to it to 10. I don't want to feed 6-slot stuff. Sure. 5 of these should be more than enough, I think. Plus I've got these great enhanced success rate things. So let's do this again. Alright, so let's feed our Seeger Javelin these things. Oh, that's not going as far as I thought it was at all. Just trying to be cheap and it's probably not going to work out well. Alright, so if you have great enhancement aids from somewhere, that can help. See if we get lucky here. No, not at all.
You've succeeded.
I'm gonna have to pull some other stuff out. I had these out to kind of show off some other things, so I don't want to feed those. And I already got rid of all of my garbage earlier. That'll work. I don't know why I have that in my bag. That'll work. Yeah, we can just feed it any of these 12 stars with no enhancements on them, or affixes. Alright, we'll get there.
What do you need?
There it is. Let's sort by a number of augments so we don't grab any of the stuff that we want to use later. I guess I can feed these now. Alright, if we're not completely horribly unlucky, that should do it.
You have some amazing
Oh wow. Well, I'm glad I took out more stuff. Reasons why it's good to just feed these things. It's just super inefficient to feed it from level 1 to 10 because you're wasting so much experience. Okay, now we're there one way or the other. I don't need to even use a grade success, whatever. Alright.
It seems you've succeeded.
So this video wasn't really about enhancing, but since we're here, once you get to 10, 20, and 30, you have to feed your weapon some extra crap to, where'd it go? Yeah, so you have to feed it some extra stuff to upgrade its potential, which is like an extra power that I'm not going to say is unique, but for additional power.
Amazing luck.
So now that we're past level 10, I'm just going to feed it these things. You can see it just goes directly to level 20, doesn't require any additional work. It only costs 1 lambda grinder. So it's much more efficient in terms of lambda grinders, which you might find yourself in shortage of if you're trying to do all of this upgrading.
You have some amazing luck.
Alright, so we gotta feed it 2 more times and we'll be there.
It seems you've succeeded. You have some amazing
Alright, one
luck.
more feeding and this hungry boy will be ready to be fed something else. Alright, so this is kind of what we were doing this for. So you can see now that it's plus 35, it's got this Augment Factor. The reason I wanted to do this weapon, I'm actually going to use it eventually because it can add Might 5 to whatever item I want to use it on. So let's just, for the sake of showing what this does, go back to Affix Augments. Oh yeah, I need to unlock it to really show this off. So we'll just pick any weapon, it doesn't really matter. I picked one that has more augment slots than it. Okay, that doesn't work. Do I not have another 3 slot in my bag?
Come back soon.
Alright, I need to withdraw a crappier weapon to be able to show this off. That has 3 slots, that'll work. That would be the next part of this for me to be able to actually do anything with it, because I would have to upslot this
What do you
thing.
need?
But I'm not going to do that right now. Well, I might take it to 4. I should be able to pretty safely take it to 4 without too much effort. So, we'll pick that Sigma, so you can kind of see how that puts Might 5 right there in it. So the benefit of these Augment Factors, you can get some really powerful affixes with 100% success rate. There is 0 chance it'll fail as long as you don't add extra slots. So speaking of extra slots, we'll go ahead and upslot this Seeger to +4, hopefully. So for upslotting, you always want to use at least 2 fodder pieces. And you always want to use 100% success rate items. So we can actually use this, does this have anything good? That's not good. You want level 1 so that it easily transfers. So let's use that. So this thing that keeps popping up is because I have one of the cash shop Affix Augments. These are basically like fairly powerful 100% success rate things. They work like Augment Factors, but they're one-time use. I'll click it just so we can see what it is. So like this one is plus 25 melee, 100% success, can't fail. We're not actually going to use it for upslotting, but you could technically do that. So we'll go ahead and pick our Augment Factor. As long as this weapon exists, you will always be able to put Might 5 on it. If you feed it to another weapon, you can give it Might 5, but next time you go to transfer, it'll have the normal Might 5 success rate, which is significantly lower than 100%. So we actually need to feed another weapon into this still. Okay, that'll work. So let's put our 100% successes. So you can see this drop to 70. So when you go to this page, you can pick a booster. We'll go ahead and use a 30% just so that this for sure succeeds. So you use your booster, you get your potential up to 100%. Now that
It
Seeger
seems you've
weapon
succeeded.
is 4 slot instead of 3. That's pretty much how upslotting works. It's pretty straightforward. Again, it's easier on a plus 35 weapon because you can always select its augment factor, which is 100%, most of the time more powerful than whatever else garbage you're using to upslot with. Alright, so now that we've kind of went over what augment factors are, how to get access to them, we'll just go over a list right quick. So on the Visiphone, if you go to the Augment Factors link, there's actually a list of like every weapon, what its augment factor is. So I'll kind of run you through like what I put into my weapon. So again, like there is some way more ridiculous builds out there than what I went with, but they're also a lot more expensive. What I did was pretty cheap overall if you grind the materials yourself. Or just find some good deals on weapons that aren't popular. Like Gix weapons are not very popular because they're not very good. But you'll see when we get down through there, they actually have pretty good augment factors. So like a cheaper option if you don't have Seegers. So these Seegers come from Yamato. So like they're a pretty rare drop from Yamato. But Nox and Sigma, like you probably have dozens of them laying around if you've been doing any grinding at all. Or if you don't, you can buy 6 of them for 120,000 Meseta on Ship 4. And that gives you a Might 4 augment factor that's 100% success rate. So that's a pretty easy one. You can get all these same things with just, you know, ranged or tech as well. Just you use a range or a tech weapon. And some weapons give dex buffs, defense, whatever. If you're playing some kind of hybrid, maybe you want mastery. If you're trying to do some tanky thing, stamina is an option. You generally don't want to go for the straight spirit ones because they're better options. Unless you just really want a massive PP pull for some reason. Then these DIS things are available for Spirit 5 for, you know, 1 to 2 million. They're not too bad. You got the mutations. They're not really worth doing because they're just raw power and there's better options out there. Modulator is really powerful, plus 30 power to all, but it requires this weapon, which on Shift 4 is running about 10 million or so. So there's better options anyway, because you kind of want PP more than power. Yeah, but I'll just cover the ones I went over because I know some people that asked for this video really just wanted to see what I did. So going down the list, Noble Might's the cash shop one. So this is the melee / PP affix. So like if we go back to Sim, it would be this, or not this, this. Melee and PP up. Right now they're about 2 million Meseta if you want to buy them off the shop. Okay, so that one's pretty straightforward. Flicked Arma is basically a weaker version of that, but you can get it from these 11 slot. So for all of those of you that have been wondering about, hey, what's something useful to do with my photon boosters, these flicked enchants for your weapon, or affixes. 20 power, 3 PP. It's really good. You just go and spend, what is it, 300 photon boosters so that you get 6 copies. Feed them all to each other, grind them up to plus 35. You can put your appropriate flicked fix on your weapon. 100% success chance. So that's a good use of photon boosters. Okay, Sentence Might. I think this was the Gix one. Yeah, so any Gix weapon, grind it up to plus 35. You can put Sentence Might, which is a slightly more powerful version of Flicked. Or Sentence Precision, Casting, whatever. 1 more PP than Flicked, really good enchant. Might we already talked about earlier, that's from your 12-star Nox and Sigma weapons. or Seeger if you want to go a little higher end, put that additional 5 power on there. Alice de Soul, we talked about the souls earlier in the video. That's just from putting a boss soul and a earth soul into your fodder. And then Ark's Fever was from PSO Day. Just any weapon that dropped with Ark's Fever. They're pretty cheap because weapons drop really often, so it's not hard to get hold of an Ark's Fever weapon. It's probably not that expensive to get one that's already got the number of slots that you want. It can be a little more expensive to upslot than to just buy it straight up with the right number of slots already. If you've got other things that you want in your build, you can by all means look through here and find other stuff. A lot of these soul augment factors aren't in the game yet. Ray weapons can technically drop, but they don't come with a plus 35 cap. So if you wanted to get this Astral Soul augment factor, you would need 6 Ray series weapons. So you would have to spend so the cheapest one I saw was selling for like 50 million to set it. So if you really wanted this Astral Soul on your weapon, the easiest way that you can get it there, it would be about 100 million total investment just to get this one soul on there. Or you can just put Alice de Soul on there the easy way for basically free. So I mean, make your own decisions there. Whatever it is you want to do. So these other, so like soul receptors, if you wanted to do some weird stuff, like you can, it's out there, it's possible. These soul receptor weapons right here are all the ones from your unique badges. That said, to get this augment factor, you need 6 copies. So you would need 2,400 unique badges. You might have that saved up, probably you don't, but that's how you would get that if you really want it for whatever build you're doing. So I think that kind of beats the augment factors into the ground, hopefully. Just much cheaper way of doing it than going out and grinding all this gear, getting multiple copies with all this different stuff put together. It makes it way easier to do weapons, because you can just get the augment factors you want, throw them on there, 100% success rate, good to go. What makes units harder is you don't have augment factors. You have to actually go and grind the fodder that you want. So I'll go over what I put on mine just to show you what went into it. But one unit cost me probably at least twice as much to upgrade as my weapon. So just so that you know like roughly what you're dealing with. So with this whole process, I don't remember if I said it earlier, your base item, unless you're doing some weird thing like what I did with Ark's Fever, you want to upslot it completely first. If you do want like some specific 100% affix on it, that you can use that as your upslotting piece basically, but what that really buys you is you don't have to spend a fodder slot on that. So it's kind of depends exactly what your build is. If you want like Ark's Fever for sure, like you definitely want Ark's Fever, go ahead and just upslot it with Ark's Fever. That way you have all 5 of your fodder slots to use for stuff you actually want. Okay. So we're just going to leave this blank so that I can kind of show what we're putting on here. So like for exactly what I did, that's what I'm going to show you right now. So again, full Vegas or Eastern Soul are going to come with a majority of your Doombreak pieces. So for Doombreak, if you want it to guaranteed go on there, you're going to need 3 Doombreak pieces. At least one of those Doombreak pieces needs to have full Vegas, but that's almost guaranteed to happen. Just because of how the RNG works, what you're going to get. I think looking on this server, like Full Vegas and Eastern Soul have like a 75% drop chance on any piece that will have Doombreak on it. So by the time you farm up 3 Doombreak pieces, statistically one of those is going to have your Full Vegas or Eastern Soul on it. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Like if you're getting your Doombreaks, you're going to get your Earth Soul. It's just going to happen. And then because of how rare the enemy is that drops Doombreak, you're probably going to get your Boss Soul too. Like it's just going to happen. So for what I did, you need 3 Doombreak 3 pieces. That way you get your 30%. You need 1 piece with Full Vegas. That way it can mix with your Boss Soul. And you're probably going to get plenty of Shraders. It doesn't really matter. The stats on the Boss Soul that you mix in doesn't really matter. As long as it says Fill Boss Soul, that'll make the Allies to Soul. But you're probably going to see a lot of Shraders when you farm. I think I need to make this taller so that block 5 pops in. I want to make it wider because it's... Let's do that. There we go. Okay, so the way that I set mine up, okay, sure. The way I set mine up, I just used my last piece as a Might 3 slot. If you get lucky and you get Might 3 on one of your Doombreaks or your Fill Boss piece, then you could do something else with that slot potentially. And then I just put Arc's Fever on either of these pieces. It's easiest to just put Arc's Fever on this piece because you can't easily put it on a Doombreak piece because Doombreak's not going to carry over. So like, unless you want to farm a lot of Doombreak pieces, you realistically want to farm 5 slot Doombreak pieces or 6 slot if you're trying to put 6 slots on your units. But anyway, the easiest way was just to put Arc's Fever on Might 3 because both of those are going to be 100% success. There we go. Alright, so from here that's basically everything. So we've got our 2 souls to make Allies to Soul. Noble Might was a cash shop item. Arc's Fever is on whatever piece you want to put it on. Might 3 is on whatever piece you want to put it on. If you want to get a Might 4, I think that'll still succeed. We'll mess with it just to see what the success chance is. Our 3 Doombreak pieces, so that'll transfer. And then everything else doesn't really matter. None of the other affixes matter, just that they're there. So we're just going to put some random junk affixes on there just to get it done. Alright, so this will take a second. Just gotta copy this stuff over so it'll work. That's one of the annoying things with the affix simulator is as far as I know, there's not an easier way to do this. Maybe there is, but I don't know what it is. Alright, now that we have 5 affixes on everything, magically works. So like, Might 3 is a 60%, so with a 40% success rate you can do it. So like, I wouldn't recommend going up to Might 4 because you're going to have a 20% failure rate after that 40% augment success. So like, Might 3. And then if you're melee, you're going to want either allies or Acto to Soul, depending whether you want that HP or not. Arc's Fever is 100%, Doombreak 1's 80%, and then I would have the cash shop item, but you could put something else. So like I was saying, like if you got Might 3 on one of these other pieces, you could just put some other affix as your 5th fodder piece and put Arc's Fever on that piece. But, you know, it'll depend on what you want to do with your build. But for mine, I just use the cash shop item. If you don't want to spend for the cash shop item, again, you can put whatever in there, it'll be fine. So like you can see your success rates here. Our lowest one is might 3. So if you put 40% augmentation aid, everything is 100%. It's going to transfer. You're going to have a nice item. Again, if you want to go up to 6 slots, it's going to be more expensive because you're probably going to have a few failures before you get to 6. But once you have it to 6, nothing else really changes. So just to show you what I'm trying to say there, let's say we put this up to 6, and we got to copy it to all fodders. Alright, so if we pick all of our stuff again, so like if we try to put 6, none of these percents change. So once you've upslotted it, like having more slots in and of itself doesn't reduce your success chance at all. If you wanted to increase your success chance on that might 3, you could try getting multiple items that have might 3. That ought to see, like now you only need a 30% booster. So that saves you 80 X cubes if you can get multiple might 3. So just something to think about when you're messing with your fodder. What else do we got? We talked about upslotting. We went pretty in detail on the Affix simulator. Talked about Augment Factors, how to overgrind. We talked about soul synthesis. I think that pretty much covered everything there is to this. So one thing for later in the game that I didn't really talk about, because I don't have any experience with it yet, because it's not implemented in North American servers. You'll be able to get these S-grade augments. Now, I'll go to the JP just so we can cover it at the end of this video, but on the NA server you can't actually mess with these at all, because we don't have 14-star weapon access yet. Well, anyway, the important thing on, I'll do this. This is kind of just rambly extra information at this point. It's not anything you can immediately do anything with. So, if we go to the weapon list, scroll down to our 14 stars. Oh yeah, I'm on NA. Ah, there we go. There's a button for that. Yeah, anything from this point, like, if you don't care about what's going on in the future, you just want to know how to affix your weapons now, the rest of this video is not going to matter at all to you. But if you just want kind of to see what's going to happen in like episode 5, episode 6, then stick around and we'll get into that a little bit. This is not a good example. This is not the page that I wanted. That, I think, is what I want. What? Work with me here, Visiphone. Maybe. Okay, whatever. We can kind of get into what we wanted from the previous page. Okay, so anyway. These S augment things, once you start getting 14, 15 star items, you get access to these S tier augments. So these are essentially like extra powerful affixes that you can add to your weapons. They really change up the game a lot, add a lot more customization and power to your weapons. But again, we'll start seeing that kind of stuff like later on in episode 5, so it's going to be a little bit for North American servers. But yeah, that should be pretty in depth. I guess just let me know in the comments if there was anything that you thought we should have covered better, or any other topics that you'd like a similar style video on. I obviously don't do a whole lot of post-processing, so I try to make a good first cut if I can. But yeah, hopefully you got some good information out of that. If you liked the video, you know, let me know what other topics you might want me to talk about, any other in-game thing maybe not making the most sense to you, or just you'd like to know more about. I've messed around with a lot of things. Yeah,